Meeting of the Gloucester City Council for the evening of December 10th, 2020 to 2019, to order. We start our meetings. First, you need to say that this meeting is recorded by video and audio in accordance with the state open meeting law. First order of business is the flag salute and the moment of silence. Councilor Hecht, you and I this is our last meeting. You lead us in the flag salute. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, for liberty and justice for all. So for this evening's moment of silence, I would like to dedicate this moment of silence to Dave Harrison, who was a friend to all of us in this room and in this city. Dave was a true son of Gloucester, and his gifts to our community were many. His commitment to sportsmanship through his service to the Scholastic, Collegiate, and Special Olympic sports organizations gave student athletes a solid role model. He showed civic leadership through his service for 4 terms as Gloucester's representative to the Mass House of Representatives and as chairman of the Massachusetts Democratic Party. And finally, his 14-year tenure as presiding judge of the Gloucester District Court, where his compassion, thoughtfulness, and respect for the law helped many families impacted by juvenile behavior issues and domestic violence. I know that his legacy will continue through those of us he inspired to enter public service. Anyone else want to say something for Dave? Thank you. Moment of silence for Dave. Thank you. Madam Clerk, first order of business.
First order of business is oral communications.
Oral communications, the public shall have the opportunity at every regularly scheduled meeting to be heard under oral communications on matters not appearing on the agenda. Oral communications shall allow any resident who has a request or complaint of any nature relative to city business to appear before the council, state their problem without debate, and the matter shall be referred to the proper agency through the office of the mayor. The resident shall be notified within a 2-week period relative to the disposition of same, and a copy shall be forwarded to the City Council. Persons speaking under oral communications shall be limited to 3 minutes each, and the Council President shall not allow complaints as to individual performance. So, anyone for oral communication? Sir? Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Thomas Stein, and I live at 73 Eastern Ave in Gloucester. I've lived there since 2012. I live on the corner of Hart Street, and it's a very busy corner. And I don't have a complaint, but I have a request. I could really use some help around snow removal issues. And what's happening is that I have about 110 feet of frontage on Eastern Ave, and then it continues up when my neighbor is also the retired chief of the fire department. He's in his 90s. I'm 60 years old. I have a young daughter who's 20 months, and my wife lives with me. And what they do is they plow the snow up onto the sidewalk. And so, for example, in the last week we had the first snowstorm. There was less than a foot, I would say. And I know that as a citizen, and my responsibility is to keep the sidewalk clear, and I do my best to do that always. And that's my responsibility. So I go out there. I commute into Boston every day by train, but I stayed home that day because I knew I had to shovel. And it takes me a long time to shovel that. So I went out there and I shoveled. About an hour later, they had come and dumped heavy, wet snow, and Gloucester snow is pretty heavy. And so I had to go out there and shovel it again. And then that happened a third time, and it was starting to freeze. And so there is enough space there, and they do this on the Hart Street side to dump the snow where the cars would park. So there is legal parking on both sides. So if cars were parked there, then there would be 2 lanes still to pass. So I'm not sure why they feel they need to put it onto the sidewalk Whereas in other places I've noticed, like on the Hart Street side, and I notice in other towns, like in Boston where I work, they put it into the parking spaces, so that if you want to park there, you have to shovel it out, and often you'll see, for example, a cone, or somebody puts a lawn chair there. That's a whole nother issue. But in this case, there is room to put the snow next to the sidewalk, and yet they're putting it onto that sidewalk, and I've had neighbors come and help me. With a snowblower, I don't have a snowblower. I want to get one, but I can't really afford one right now. I can't get a contractor. They charge a lot of money, then they don't show up if I can even find someone to agree to come. And so if I just quickly, before I finish, I want to back up to the 2015 event that we had here. And this is what happened to me, is that I was out there shoveling. We called it the snowpocalypse. You probably remember January, February of 2015. And, you know, I was out there shoveling, and I slipped with the shovel, and it hit my chin, and I had 2 detached retinas, and I ended up missing about 2 months of work, and I had 5 surgeries to repair my vision, and I'm very lucky I can see today. So when it snows, my wife has a lot of anxiety. I have a lot of anxiety about it, and you know I have to get out there and do it, and the snow that falls from the sky, I will shovel it by hand and remove it, or pay somebody to do it. But every time it gets dumped back onto the sidewalk, it's a very frustrating issue for me. And I had the police come by one time and ask me to remove it and say that I would get a citation if I didn't. And you know, I physically couldn't do it at that time. That was, you know, 2 feet of wet snow that had been frozen on 150 feet. So I would like to just ask if there's a way we could consult with the Public Works or the contractors who are plowing along that street, Eastern Ave, and have them not put it onto the sidewalk, and that would make our jobs a lot easier to comply with the ordinance.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much. You'll get an answer on that. Next for oral communication, Councilor-elect Pett. Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening. My name is Barry Pett. I'm at 45 Middle Street. I don't have a complaint. I'm just assuming that, and I know that can get you in trouble, but I'm assuming this is the last council meeting of the year. And I just wanted to pass on my thanks to all of the councilors for all your work for the last couple of years. And I wanted to give special thanks to Councilor President Lemberg and Councilor Hecht, since you are departing, for your service to the city. And hopefully we'll all keep in touch again. Thank you all so much.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else for oral communication? Yes, sir. Name and address for the record.
Reverend Richard Emanuel, 149-153 East Main Street, minister at the church. This is a request. This is a request for more information. I'll quote, "A properly functioning democracy depends on an informed electorate," Thomas Jefferson. With that statement in mind, please be advised that this communication is a request for the council to add a new requirement for its procedures to obtain a special council permit. The new requirement is that the City Council, the Planning Board, and the ZBA require all future applicants for major projects provide a scaled 3D architectural white model to be included along with adjacent buildings in their presentation for requesting special council permits. In conjunction with the scaled model presentation, a Google area map demonstration will be required to authenticate the model's accuracy and its correct positioning to the real contours of the land. The new 3D model requirement is to expand the council's, the city boards, and the citizens' abilities for the understanding of the impact of changing scale and the density before voting a decision to change or increase the density of a neighborhood. Height changes create new precedents and establish the path for future major proposals and developments. The future is now. We must understand that new proposals are challenging our infrastructure. We must protect the conservation of our natural resources, and the qualities of life as stated in the zoning guidelines for purpose, interpretation, conflict, and definition. Thank you, and I'll submit this to the...
Thank you. Thank you very much. Anyone else for oral communication? Next, Madam Clerk, we have presentation. So, Councilor LeBlanc. Yeah, we're going out of order.
Thank you. As Council-elect Barry Pat said earlier, this is our council president and our Ward 2 councilors' last city council meeting this evening. So we are going to present them with a city council commendation. Be it hereby known to all that the city of Gloucester City Council hereby commends Councilor Paul Lundberg, whereas the end of the 2018-2019 City Council terms means that Councilor Paul Lundberg will no longer be serving as an elected official in the City of Gloucester. Therefore, we, the members of the City Council, deemed it fitting and proper that there be inscribed upon our records our appreciation for the dedicated and valuable service the Councilor Lundberg has provided. Wherefore, we express our sincere gratitude for his 6 years of service as councilor and our appreciation for his accomplishments while serving on this body. Furthermore, we also take this opportunity to express our gratitude on behalf of the citizens of Gloucester for his dedicated years of service. Wherefore, we find that whatever the future holds for him in public or private life, we know that the experience he has gained in the council will inspire him to even greater efforts for Gloucester. Signed on the 10th day of December 2019 by the City Council of Gloucester, and we thank you, Council President Lundberg, for your services.
I have the honor to acknowledge Councillor Hecht. Be it hereby known to all that the City of Gloucester City Council hereby commends Councillor Ken Hecht, whereas the end of the 2018-2019 City Council terms means that Councillor Ken Hecht will no longer be serving as an elected official in the City of Gloucester. Therefore, we, the members of the City Council, deem it fitting and proper that there be inscribed upon our records our appreciation for the dedication and the valuable service of Councillor Hecht. Wherefore, we express our sincere gratitude for his 2 years of service as a councillor and our appreciation for his accomplishments while serving on this body. Furthermore, we also take this opportunity to express our gratitude on behalf of the citizens of Gloucester for his dedicated years of service. Wherefore, we find that whatever the future holds for him in public or private life, we know that the experience he has gained in the council will inspire him to even greater efforts for Gloucester. Signed this 10th day of December 2019, all of us. Thank you so much, Ken.
Okay, we are going to take an item out of order here. So we have a scheduled public hearing, 2019-058 for the special city council permit 2019-008 for 35 Fuller Street in Magnolia. As a result of a legal analysis of our notice, both in the paper and in our agenda, it appears that we have not properly noticed this hearing in terms of 2 of the items of relief that the applicant is seeking. Now, we all know what they are, and we've been through this together a lot, all of us in this room, but we're going to ask the applicant if they wish to agree to a postponement of this matter until the matter can be properly noticed, and I think that that would mean that we would come back to this. I shouldn't say we, but you'll come back to this on January 14th. So, Mr. Nestor, do you would...
For the record, my name is Mark Nestor. I'm the attorney for Beauport Shores. My office is 45 Middle Street, Gloucester, Massachusetts. I was made aware of this conundrum about 4:45 tonight. I understand the concerns, and I've had conversations with City Council and a couple of members of this council to try to determine where to go. I don't have enough information to really go anywhere else other than request a continuance, or I'll assent to a continuance until the next date in January. One, to give me time to both research to see if this is correct, and two, to err on the side of caution and go forward if it's correct, and so be it. So we request it to be continued to the next hearing in January. I understand that we'll have two members on it, and hopefully the two new members will bone up on what they have missed with reading all the minutes and whatever, so they get ready to rock and roll with everybody else on that day, and hopefully we'll have no more other continuances. And I'll agree to extend the time necessary past the 60 days if necessary.
All right, do we need a vote on that? I guess we do. Before we have the vote, I just want to apologize to everyone who is here. This is the second time we've done this to you, and we apologize for that. Anyone who comes out to the City Council for a public hearing deserves our thanks and commendation, but we need to get this right, and I know that you neighbors in Magnolia want to make sure it's right too. So I have a motion to, can I have a motion to continue until?
So moved.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Next item of business, Madam Clerk.
Next item is the confirmation of new appointments.
Councilor LeBlanc.
Thank you. We have a couple of appointments this evening. Hold on, let me get up to speed here. The first appointment is the Animal Advisory Committee. Lynn R. Jackson. Ordinance Administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council appoint Lynn R. Jackson, DVM, to the Animal Advisory Committee, term to expire 2/14/23, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded.
So, Dr. Jackson is a veterinarian. She has an understanding of all animals, both domestic and wild, and she is going to be an excellent addition to the Animal Advisory.
Is she here?
She's not here this evening. She had a prior commitment.
Okay. Did anybody else? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Dr. Jackson, for agreeing to serve.
Next, we have the Human Rights Commission, Tony Borge. Ordinance Administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council appoint Tony Borge to the Human Rights Commission, term to expire 2/14/22, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded.
Is Tony here? I don't know. Oh, there she is. Hey, Tony. She's here this evening. So she served as the Adult Educational Director for Bunker Hill College and is now recently retired. Given her background and the broad nature of the Human Rights Commission, the board purposes to serve the community, she will be an asset to this revitalized commission, and we're looking forward for her to serve for us.
Thank you. Any other comments about Tony? All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you for agreeing to serve, Tony. Next.
Yes, the Gloucester Disabilities Rights Commission, Michael McDermott. Ordinance Administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council appoint Michael McDermott to the Gloucester Disabilities Rights Commission, term to expire 2/14/23, and I so move.
Second. Moved and seconded.
Is Michael here? I don't see. Oh, there he is. Hey, Michael.
Hello, Michael.
Thanks for coming. He is, given his professional background as a special educations teacher, and working to prepare students to enter the workforce and help them with their life skills and his willingness to serve the city. He's going to be an excellent addition to this board also.
Okay. Anybody else? All those in favor say aye. Aye, opposed? Thank you, Michael. Appreciate your service. Anything else, Councilor? Okay, next item.
Next
Madam Clerk?
item is the consent agenda.
Any councilors wish to pull anything from the consent agenda? Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes, I'd like to pull item number 1, please.
You mean from the mayor's report? Number
Yeah,
one of the
yes, item
reappointments?
number 1 for the mayor's report.
Okay, anybody else? Okay, for the balance of the consent agenda, can I have a motion to accept?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes, item number 1 on the mayor's report. This is advising that the council, that the term to expire for the Archives Committee reappointments, Sarah Dunlap and Stephanie Buck, should be 2/15/23, not the stated 2/14/23. And I ask for the record that this be corrected and advise that the O&A Committee is in receipt of this memo from the mayor's dated December 9th that, that Leonard Glendenhall has resigned from the Capital Improvements Advisory Board and therefore is no longer up for reappointment, and ask that his reappointment be removed from the consent agenda. So should be removed, and ask that the amended item number 1, reappointments, be referred to O&A Committee as stated.
Thank you. And with that correction, can I have a motion to accept the consent agenda? All those in favor? Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Thank you, Councilor. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is old business, the BNF minutes of 12/21/19, the council action to amend a motion regarding the Ocean Alliance.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes, on behalf of Budget and Finance, we have a little housekeeping matter here. I'd like to move to amend the minutes of the Budget and Finance Committee meeting of November 21st, 2019, on page 5, under the heading of Ocean Alliance, to strike the incorrect motion and in its place to add the following motion as voted by the committee at that evening. Committee report on a motion by Councilor Heck, seconded by Councilor Memhard. Budget and Finance voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 Councilor Cox recused, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $30,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee to Ocean Alliance for the purpose of to preserve and rehabilitate the Tar and Watson Paint Factory, installation of handicapped access in order to restore a historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the historic preservation category and funded from unrestricted reserves in Fund 4500. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund, Historic Preservation Projects Fund 4744, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Pretty self-explanatory,
Yep.
I would say. So just a simple majority on that. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Thank you.
Thank you.
And a committee report, Budget and Finance? None? No meeting. Okay, Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Next order of business is the Ordinance and Administration Standing Committee report of December 2nd.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Thank you. The first item is ordinance administration voted unanimously to recommend that the City Council ratify the intermunicipal agreement with the Town of Essex, Mass., wherein the Town of Essex will purchase wastewater treatment and disposal, and the City of Gloucester will supply the Town of Essex with wastewater treatment and disposal. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. You want to?
We have
The narrative?
our general counsel up if anybody has any questions. It was vetted at O&A. I'll ask Chip to come up and give us a brief overview of what we're doing.
Mr. President,
Basin, thank you for coming.
thank you. I'm just going to give a brief overview about the background on this, and then I'm going to turn it over to Jim to talk a little bit about the substance of what's in the document. So, as some of you may recall or may understand, in 1989, various state and federal agencies filed suit in federal court under the Clean Water Act to stop the overflow of storm drainage and household effluent into the harbor and other bodies of water. while this suit was ongoing, Essex and Rockport were facing the same legal pressures as Gloucester to stop this overflow. Gloucester came to Essex and Rockport's aid and negotiated intermunicipal agreements, or IMAs, with them to permit Essex and Rockport to connect to Gloucester's sewage system. In 2005, Gloucester, Essex, and the various agencies entered into a superseding consent decree in the federal action that began in 1989. This consent decree required Gloucester to undertake a combined sewer overflow, or CSO, plan at considerable capital expense to improve the wastewater system by separating storm runoff from household effluent. The CSO plan required Essex and Rockport, through the IMAs, to pay a portion of the CSO costs. Essex protested their requirement to pay and filed a lawsuit against Gloucester. The courts found in Gloucester's favor in 2012. 2 years prior to this, in 2010, while Essex's legal challenge was still ongoing, Gloucester approved a debt shift in which taxes would be assessed for payment of all existing combined sewer overflow debt service charges, and such additional taxes shall be on all real property. Due to this debt shift, Gloucester inadvertently failed to collect Essex and Rockport's share of the CSO debt costs. Realizing this, in 2015, the mayor and the CAO instructed the legal department to send letters to Essex and Rockport requesting that they bring their payments current. Rockport complied, but Essex refused. In 2017, Gloucester brought suit against Essex for, among other things, breach of contract. In 2019, Essex's legal counsel approached Gloucester's legal counsel and requested mediation, and Gloucester agreed. So now I'll turn it over to Jim and let him talk a little bit about the mediation.
Thank you, Chip. Welcome, Mr. Destino.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And before I begin, on behalf of the mayor and myself, I just want to say thank you for a job well done, and for your friendship and the hard work that we've done together, you and Councilor Hecht. You're going to be missed, and we did a lot of good work together, and thank you. So here we are. We went to mediation with Rockport. You've been fully briefed on the settlement agreement. I can hit some of the highlights of that, but what is in front of you tonight is basically the amendments in the new IMA. The intermunicipal agreement has really three components to it that need to be changed. One is the term. Starting July 1st, 2020, it'll run for a term of 25 years. The second is that Essex, you'll need to approve Essex payment to us of $1,640,000 over that 25-year period. And there will also be a discounted rate, and I can explain that a little bit more. When the briefs were filed for the mediation, after reading both sides of the briefs, I realized that both Essex and Rockport do significant work on operations and maintenance in their own towns, which Gloucester does not enter to do that work. So subsequently, their sewer rate, ours is around $14 and change, theirs is over $29 in Essex. So they have a significant higher cost because they still have additional work to do. So I think this agreement, this mediation, is a fair compromise where we give them a 14% reduction in their rate, which recognizes that we're not doing work across the town line, and it really truly reflects what's really happening on the ground. So this is the ditch to die in for the city was that they needed to pay their share of the capital, and they're going to do that. The full, when the Kirk administration shifted this $45 million onto the Gloucester taxpayers, property owners, and just forgetting the other towns that had by a legal agreement, had committed to pay their share of the capital cost was wrong. So we're happy to correct that. They're our neighbors in Essex. We want to work together. This agreement will last for decades. We're hoping that the council will agree to this amendment. The Board of Selectmen have already approved and will publicly approve it next Monday night, and then we'll have an agreement that starts in place in July 2020. And I'm here to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Destino. Any councilor questions on this matter? We have been fully briefed several times, so thank you for that. So this is a roll call vote, Madam Clerk? Nope. So this is just a simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is the Planning and Development Standing Committee report of December 4th.
Councilor Gilman.
Thank you for the last time. Sad. On a motion by Councilor Holgram, seconded by Councilor Gilman, the Planning and Development Committee voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed, Lundberg absent, to grant the City of Gloucester and Fuller Residential Holdings, LLC, FRH, GX-PH4, LLC, parentheses GX, and the Young Men's Christian Association of the North Shore, Inc., YMCA, a perpetual, non-exclusive 20-foot wide easement in, under, upon, through, and above the city property referenced and depicted on the easement sketch plan as prop sewer easement for the benefit of and is pertinent to the FRH property, the GX property, and the YMCA property to become established by and upon the final installation of improvements therein by the grantees for the consideration of $1. And I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any commentary?
So the discussion basically is that the property, since the development of the St. Peter's High School, has discharged its waste via a pump station and force main that terminates at the top of Trask Street. Prior to the laying of Schoolhouse Road and then the disposition of the Fuller School, all lands were owned by the City of Gloucester. With the private development now under construction, the path of their waste remains relatively similar. The proposed easement will extend from the private property to the termination point in Upper Trask Street. The new force main will be a dedicated private utility under property owned by the City of Gloucester, and all operations and maintenance of this utility will be the sole responsibility of the owner of the utility. And I'm sure if anyone wants Chip Payson to weigh in, or on behalf of Mike Hale.
Any councilor questions? Nope. Then we'll just go for a vote. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm sure that's why all of the supporters of the Y are here tonight for the sewer easement, so you guys can go home now. Madam Clerk, next order of business.
Okay. So next order of business is scheduled public hearing 2019-064, recommendations of the Community Preservation Committee, Round 10, FY19.
Thank you very much. First, we'll hear from Catherine Schlichte, co-chair of the Community Preservation Committee, who will give us the overview of what we're doing here tonight. Catherine, welcome.
Thank you, Mr. President. Mr. President, council members, thank you for having us here tonight. I'm Catherine Schlichte, co-chair of the Community Preservation Committee, and I just wanted to give a basic overview of the funding that is available currently on the Community Preservation Funds, and I want to apologize to the Budget and Finance Subcommittee for not having these numbers for you at your last subcommittee hearing. So as I know the councilors are fully aware, community preservation funds are generated through a levy on our real estate taxes combined with a partial match from the state. So currently, what I just wanted to provide you of what the current 2019 CPA fund balances are. Of the amount of money that is generated every year, 10% of the total has to go into each of the funding categories: historic preservation, open space, recreation, or community housing. And if you don't have any applications for those categories, those funds just stay in those categories. They can only be spent on applications that meet the criteria for recreation or housing or whatnot. So our current balances with this year's round of funding, historic preservation has $800 in it. And the reason that, you might say, well, that's not 10%, but the reason that that is only $800 is because that category of funding is immediately sequestered to pay for the bond payment for the City Hall restoration project. So open space and recreation has $243,728 in it. Again, those monies can only be spent on open space or recreation projects. Community housing has $290,430 in it. And then the general reserves has $960,317. So this category of funding can fund any of the 4 categories. From general reserves, you can fund any of the qualifying applications. So in this year's round of funding, we have $222,000 of proposed funding for historic preservation. Most of that will come from the general reserves because there's no reserves in balance. And there's $342,000 of open space and recreation requests. 243 of that will be funded with the current reserves that are available. So of a total of $1.5 million, there's $564,000 in funding requests for this round. We would still, if everything was fully funded, have $930,000 in CPA funds that are available for future applications, off-cycle funding and whatnot. So below are just the 8 applications that you're going to consider tonight. I just wanted to say a little bit about the application process. Applications come in April. The community preservation spends 7 months reviewing them, meeting with applicants, doing site visits, investigating the size of the organization, strength of the organization, their ability to carry out a project. And our recommendations are based on that 7 months of meetings and research. And then just the bottom is just a historical perspective of what we've raised for community preservation funds and have spent in community preservation funds to date. We've spent $3.4 million on community preservation projects. I think a lot of you are familiar with a lot of them. 49% of those are historic preservation. That's our biggest category of funding. We have a lot of historical buildings. This is kind of an unusual year that we actually had 3 recreational applications. We don't usually get that many. So, and the least utilized category, unfortunately, is the affordable housing category. So, thank you. I just wanted to give you that overview of the funding.
Thank you. Catherine, any questions for Catherine? So, yes, Councilor Gilman.
I'm not sure if you can answer it. I'm sure you can. What is the match right now from the state for CPA? I know that when we started, it was around 50%, and then it dipped down to 11, and I think it's going halfway back, but I was wondering if we knew what that match is right now.
17%, those last figure I was given. Yeah, so last match was about 17%, although in this year's budget, the governor did add a lot more funding to community preservation matching money, so we hope that it will go up in future years.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the only other thing I just wanted to say was when you have your annual event where you get the community together at the library, let us all know, because I would love to see more people attend. I would really like to get a large group there, because this is so important to people, and for some reason, people just miss that date. And
Yeah.
I know for one, I would love to attend, and I know that if I advertise it, I could get 20 or 30 people from even my ward to come, because it's really important, and we need to support you all for the work that you do. So just wanted to mention that.
Thank you.
Councilor Hecht?
Thank you. Catherine, thanks for everything you do, and your whole committee. It's a lot of work. So I just want to clarify, so if we fund all the projects that are requesting the monies now, we'll have
Yes.
$930,000.
Remaining in the community preservation funds for
Correct.
future applications
Right.
or offset
And then,
programs.
is it July 1 where the additional 800,000-ish comes in?
No, it doesn't come in. well, Kenny's here, but it doesn't come in really till, the reason it comes to you at the end of the year is because the funding's really not set until November or December, not until the state budget's set. Does it
Right.
then, do the communities know? We can estimate. We know what we've raised at our own community from real estate tax surcharge, but we don't know what the state match is going to be till usually
Right.
about November.
So the projects you're going to review this year, you know, as you said, you take 7 months to review various projects.
Yeah.
They'll be funded out of that 930,000.
No, there'll be a new round of funding.
New round. So
Yes.
there'll be 930,000 plus roughly
In
800,000.
2020, we'll get another round of funding.
Yes, but there's
Yes.
enough money sitting in the reserves to fund the projects. None of the funding is based on projections, if that's the.
Yeah. So there is, the 930,000 is what will remain if 2019 is fully funded. There will be another round of funding in 2020 that will be added to the
Right.
930.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so, Jamie, before you start, both the state law and our own rules say that when the Community Development, Community Preservation Committee makes its recommendations, those recommendations come to the City Council for final approval in accordance with our rules and regulations for a public hearing. So what we'll do is Jamie will introduce, we have 8 tonight. Jamie will introduce each one, and then the applicant will come before us and give a brief summary of the project. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor or in opposition of that particular project will be invited to speak. And there'll be councilor questions, and then we'll have a vote. So, and we'll do the vote after each one. So that's how we'll do it. So, Jamie, thank you for coming and leading us through this, and the floor is yours.
Excellent. I'm Jamie Corliss, the Grants Administrator for the City of Gloucester, for anybody who does not know me.
You got to
Yes.
talk right into the mic, Jamie.
I am just the administrative support for the CPA. I don't get a vote, but I'm just going to be introducing all of the applicants who are here to present on their projects. So the first one that's going to be presenting is Hammond Castle. They have requested some funding to help restore their courtyard and their clear-story roof. The total project cost is estimated to be $271,000 approximately. They requested $135,000. CPA recommended the full request at $135,000. They are eligible through the historic preservation category for CPA funding. So now I'm going to hand it off to a representative from Hammond Castle. Craig.
Thank you, Jamie. Welcome. And just identify yourself for the council, please.
My name is Craig Lentz. I'm president of the board of Hammond Museum, Inc., otherwise known as the Castle. My residence is 14 Coolidge Point, Manchester. That's right on the other side of the Magnolia Beach. We have a project here which is 80 years in the making. I don't know, but I imagine most of you have been inside Hammond Museum. And there is a courtyard in there, which basically was designed by Hammond to be a medieval village, complete with a reflecting pool. And on top of it was a canopy, a glass roof to let the sunlight in. And it was wire glass, which is no longer allowed. And over the years, it has cracked in many places. Some of them have been replaced by plexiglass. It's time to basically restore the whole thing with a different technology. So we hired an engineering firm a couple of years ago to give us some recommendations. There's a sandwich panel we can now get, which is made of plexiglass, so it's got great thermal qualities, also translucent, so allows the glass to come in, the sunlight to come in. And it takes a while to replace it. We're going to have to put an internal staging on the inside with tires and run it from one end of the clear story on the inside to the other. This is a little bit of a challenge for us because we're a seasonal operation, and unfortunately the off-season is the winter, and it's not a good idea to have a roof not over your head in the winter. So we are juggling a couple of things here to get it done. This is the biggest project we have ever undertaken as a museum, and the first time we've ever come in front of the CPA for any sort of assistance. And the amount that we're asking for here is 50% of the total of the project. Assuming that we were recommended and approved for this, we could borrow the rest of the money. Excuse me, borrow's the wrong word. We could achieve the rest of the funding for this by indicating that we were successful in getting half of the project funding from the CPA in Gloucester. We have other irons in the fire, including some of our own making relative to fundraising things we're doing for the castle. We are looking at a long-term horizon here. The project would probably not commence until a year from now and would drift over into the first couple of months of the year 2021. And I think in the handout that you've got, you see some pictures in the back. We had an engineering assessment done of the steel trusses up there. Most of you that go to the castle would not look up. And there's some trusses and some purlins in there. They're in great shape. The bearing plates holding the trusses on the masonry up there, they're in great shape. The problem is that the water comes down, leaks through the joints and the gaskets up there, causes a rainfall at times, depending on how severe the weather is, inside the courtyard, which we would prefer not to have. Hammond's genius inside that put a bunch of pipes up there so he could cause a rain if he wanted to, also a fog. And a lot of those pipes now are obviously disconnected. We're not planning on doing that again, but we are planning on tightening up the courtyard. There's a lot of reasons to believe that the castle wouldn't be the castle without the use of that room. There are two significant rooms in Hammond Castle. One's the Great Hall, and the other is the courtyard. So, questions?
Great, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Lenz? Yes, Councilor Gilman?
One of the parts of this proposal which is intriguing to me is that you're looking for opportunities to let children in, for example, at no cost, which
Right.
I always am grateful to that. I'm wondering if maybe you'd also consider maybe asking folks that are seniors that really don't have a lot of income to do those fun things. We have the buses around now that get the elderly or the seniors from their housing programs in Gloucester, and I was just wondering if, I can't put you on the spot to ask right now, but maybe,
No, that's okay.
maybe you could mention it to your board and just consider that, because that, to me, if we move forward with this significant grant, it would be great to know that there's some really kind of something golden there that we can say to
Well,
to
actually,
folks.
we're a little bit ahead of you on this, because it's not only the seniors, but it's also the disadvantaged in Gloucester. We have some children's groups, as you probably know, that also need some assistance at times, and we've hosted them for Halloween trick-or-treats, and we've got some things coming up for Santa's visits. In fact, I think they're coming up this weekend. Linda Harvey is our director now for the last 11 months, and she's been great creating these things, and we're now looking for ways in which to give some benefits for just being a resident of Gloucester. So we're trying to give back to the community as best we can. Linda's done a great job of expanding the programs across the board. So we are no longer just sort of the May through September hours that we've had. We're no longer closed on Mondays. We're now open 7 days a week, and we've stretched the season on the skirts of the season we used to have, so that basically we're now almost, 8 months in duration to do this. And then the net result is that it's created a great revenue stream for us to do things with discretionary income we have not had the ability to do in 25 years. And so accommodating, I hate to use the word aged, because I am an aged, but I realize that, there are things that we can certainly do, tying up with that organization in Gloucester, in fact, with the nearby communities too, to allow that to happen.
Thank you. Anyone else? Okay. I will say, just from my point of view, Mr. Lenz, I think the community has noticed that since your new executive director has been around, that both the outreach that the castle has done as an organization is substantially improved and different and very exciting. So thank you for that. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to? Yes? Would you come to the microphone, please, and identify yourself?
Good evening, council members and community.
The microphone, please.
Thank you. I would like to speak in favor of the castle. I am Linda Harvey, 45 School Street, Manchester. I am the executive director of the castle. And I'd like to speak in favor of the castle as being a gem of our community. We bring in a lot of visitors annually. This coming year, we will top over 35,000 visitors to the castle, which at other points will then continue out into the community of Gloucester to spend more time in the city, as well as go to restaurants and visit the retail stores in the main city itself. I also want to speak to the possibility and the development of programming, which I think is very vital for our community and the growth of our children as well. We are presenting new programs on architecture, arts and culture, photography, robotics, which was probably one of John Hammond's most largest contributions to the world. He actually has over 436 patents, being the 5th largest patent holder in the United States. We now have demonstrations and exhibits that will show you all of his patents, and it's a wonderful educational opportunity for the community as well as our school systems. So we're developing this program so that we will hope in the future to become one of the leading STEM museums north of Boston. We're very serious about this, and we love to have the participation and the support of the city of Gloucester on this. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Linda. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Any communications?
There are none.
Any other councilor questions? And we'll close this portion of the public hearing, and Councilor Memhard, I think you're doing the honors tonight.
Yes, in the absence of Councilor Cox, it's my pleasure to forward our committee recommendation, Budget and Finance, on a motion by Councilor Heck, seconded by myself. Voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $135,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee to the Hammond Castle Museum for the purpose to preserve and rehabilitate the Hammond Castle Courtyard Cellar Story in order to restore an historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the Historic Preservation category, funded from unrestricted reserves in Fund 4500. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund, Historic Preservation Funds, Projects Fund 4741, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any further commentary? Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes, I'm going to support this evening. I think this is a great resource for our city. I went there not too long ago, took a tour with Linda, walked through the building, through the castle, and had a firsthand experience of looking up and seeing the condition of the skylight, the glass, and everything like that. And it's desperate in need of repair. So I think this is going to be an excellent resource for the castle and for our city in the future. And it's an asset for us to have, and I hope the rest of the council supports it also.
Great. Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? Councilor Hecht?
I'd just like to chime in on that as well. I went to the Budget and Finance site visit with Craig and Linda. Really incredible. This is going to cover a medieval village that has many antiquities in this village, and everything there has its own story. And to go with Craig and Linda and to hear all these stories, it's amazing. So if you get a chance, this is now really rocking and rolling, Hammond Castle. So I'm in full support. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Anyone else? Okay, this is a roll call vote, so Madam Clerk, call the roll.
Counselor Gilman,
Yes.
Counselor Hecht,
Yes.
Counselor Holgram,
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc, yes. Counselor Lundberg, yes. Counselor Memhard,
Yes.
Counselor Nolan, yes. And Counselor O'Hara.
Yes.
The City Council motion for CPC funds up to $135,000 for the Hammond Castle for the purpose as specified passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Lenz. Okay, Jamie, next up.
All right. So the next project is the Historic New England Beauport. They are coming to us for some masonry repairs and repairs to a Palladian window. I apologize if I get any of the terminology wrong, because some of it is very specific. The total project cost is estimated to be $18,000. The request to CPA was for $10,000, which the recommendation is the full request of $10,000. They're eligible as a historic preservation project. And I have a couple of pictures of this project. So that's the brick wall that needs repair and the window, and there are a couple of close-ups. So now I'm going to hand it over to a representative of the organization.
Thank you very much. Welcome. Councilor Holmgren? Oh, sorry. Yes.
Under Mass General Law, Section 268A, I need to disclose I am a member of Historic New England, but I have no financial interest in this matter, and I am eligible to participate in any discussion and to vote.
Good. Thank you. Sorry about that. Anybody else? Okay. Thank you and welcome. Identify for the record, please.
My name is Christina Płatka, and I am the preservation manager for the Beauport Sleeper McCann House. So as Jamie said, we are looking for funding to fix a localized section of some brick deterioration. Over the years, we've noticed that the brick is starting to pull away, and so we're pretty sure that when it was originally constructed, it didn't have any tie-ins. So over the years, the mortar is just wearing down, and now it's starting to separate from the framing underneath. And then also it just gets worse when rain and snow gets in there, the freeze-thaw cycle, so then it expands even more and it'll just continue to get worse. And then, so also the brick itself is holding up the window, and we're also noticing some deterioration on the window itself, especially in the sill. It's about 6 foot, and it definitely has rot in there that we want to take care of. So the ideal schedule for the project is we would start April 1st. We would have a masonry crew come in who we've worked with, so they're sympathetic to historic materials. They would come in, they would take down the bricks, they would label it, so then when it comes time for them to be put back, they're put back in the same location, in the same orientation. And then our in-house carpentry crew will come in, remove the window, take it back to our carpentry shop in Waltham, Massachusetts, and work on it there. That would include reglazing, a new sill, painting, and then they would bring it back, put it back into place, and then the masonry crew would come back and relay all the bricks in the same space, in the same location. And we have analysis for the mortar, so we know what mortar we need to use. We have analysis for the paint colors, so we know what we need to use there. And we're also gonna have our carpentry crew put UV film on the Palladian window panes to decrease the damage that the UV rays can do to the collections and to the house itself.
Thank you. Any councilor questions for? Thank you very much. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone wishing to speak in opposition? Communications?
There are none.
Any other councilor questions? And we'll close this portion of the public hearing. And Councilor Memhard.
On behalf of our Budget and Finance Committee, on a motion by Councilor Hecht, seconded by myself, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $10,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee to Historic New England Beauport Museum, the Sleeper McCann House, for the purpose to preserve and rehabilitate the Beauport Museum Sleeper McCann House masonry and Palladian window in order to restore an historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the Historic Preservation category and funded from unrestricted reserves in Fund 4500. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund Historic Preservation Projects Fund 4742, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other councilor commentary? Okay, roll call vote.
Counselor Gilman? Yes. Counselor Hecht?
Yes.
Counselor Holgram? Yes. Counselor LeBlanc? Yes. Counselor Lombard?
Yes.
Counselor Memhard?
Yes.
Counselor Nolan? Yes. Counselor O'Hara?
Yes.
The City Council motion to appropriate up to $10,000 to the Historic New England Beauport Museum for the purposes specified passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent.
And congratulations.
Thank you.
Next item, Jamie?
The next up is the Magnolia Historical Society has come to us for a request to upgrade their electrical systems. They need new, safer, and upgraded electrical systems in order to perform additional building improvements to the old schoolhouse out on, I think it's Lexington Ave. So the total project cost is estimated to be $29,000. They came to CPA for $25,000. The full ask was recommended for funding. They are eligible as a historic preservation project. So I'm going to hand it off.
Councilor Holmgren first.
Under Mass General Law, Section 268A, I declare I am a member of the Magnolia Historical Society. I have no financial interest in this matter and am eligible to participate in any discussion and vote.
Okay, thank you. Anybody else? Councilor Nolan?
Under 268A, I'm also a member of the Magnolia Historical Society. I have no reason to not vote in this, and I have no financial impact.
Great, thank you. Anybody else? Okay, welcome. Identify for the record, please.
My name is Claire Locker. I live at 52 Shore Road.
My name is Catherine Hull. I live at 2 Ocean Avenue in Magnolia, and I'm the treasurer of the Magnolia Historical Society.
I'm Bob Cannon. I'm from Fuller Street in Magnolia, and I'm a member of the building committee.
Thank you. Go ahead.
I didn't mention I'm the vice president. So the Blindman School was built in the late 1800s. It's one of the few remaining little red schoolhouses that we have in America. And what we're really looking for as far as funding is it's to bring us to the next stage of a renovation of the building. The electrical system is in a great need of an upgrade, and we'll be bringing in new 200-amp service from the street, as well as a new breaker panel. And from that, we're replacing the wiring on all 4 floors so that we can put in our new fire alarm system, new outlets, new lighting, and also we'll have the wiring for an elevator so we can be handicap accessible, ADA compliant, and addition to an air conditioning unit. After we have these upgrades, we can apply for our certificate of occupancy and then both, move on to more fundraising efforts, which this has in the past hampered us because we're somewhat limited not having the building, the schoolhouse up to code. And we have a temporary certificate of occupancy, but this will be a great step towards moving on with the next stages. And did I forget anything?
No, any.
Great. Okay, councilor questions? Councilor Gilman?
Thank you. I do have a question. I'm not sure. I understand that one of you is on the building committee, I believe, Ward, and maybe Jamie can help with this. But my question is because if we were to give you this grant, it is taxpayers' money. So would you be required to get several bids for the contracting work? You said that you're going to be looking to do about $29,000. And I was just wondering if that's part of the equation because it is taxpayers' money in terms
Correct.
of.
We already have 3 bids out. They were given to the committee, and they have already approved the one that we want to go to.
Perfect. Thank you.
Councilor Hecht?
As we discussed at the Budget and Finance meeting, this is the third or fourth time you've been in for funding, which is fine. It's a larger percentage of the project than you see the other projects in terms of percentages. And one of the things that we were inquiring about was the ability to become self-sustaining with respect to renting the facility. I think that there was a problem possibly with bylaws or ordinances that might prevent you from doing that, because that's clearly, it seems that's where you're going and where we'd like to have you go, to be self-sustaining after you meet code, get your certificate of occupancy and such.
Correct. Under my, when we first bought the place in the city, I understood that we could not rent it and make money. I understood that we could only accept donations to sustain the place. Talking to Councilwoman Cox at that meeting, she was under the impression that as soon as we were up to code, we could rent the building and make money. And she was going to have that expelled out to us if we could do that or not. But once we have this done, then we can bring people safely into the building. We first bought the building, Stanley Roofing gave us a roof so we were dry. The council group here gave us a heating system so we're warm. And this is our next big step.
Great. What I would ask is that you pursue whatever might be between you and being able to rent the facility. And then if you need support from this council or the city, I'm sure you'll get that, or I would recommend that you get that so you can, your hands can be untied and you can begin to rent. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Any counselor communications?
There are none.
Any more counselor questions? And we'll close this portion of the hearing, and Counselor Memhard.
Budget and Finance, on a motion by Councilor Hecht, seconded by myself, voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $25,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds, as recommended by our Community Preservation Committee, to the Magnolia Historical Society for the purpose to preserve and rehabilitate the Blenheim Schoolhouse in order to restore an historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the historic preservation category and funded from unrestricted funds in the Fund 4500. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund, Historic Preservation Projects Fund 4743, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments? Yes, Councilor Nolan, go ahead.
I'll be supporting this tonight. The committee that's been working with the schoolhouse since its inception has done a lot of hard work with limited funds. They're committed, and I know that they're going to go forward with everything they need to do to make it successful. And I can't thank them enough for all their work in the community, not just in the building, but with the upkeep of all the parks and the trimming of the bushes and the cemetery. And I want to thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor. Anybody else? I would also like to add my thanks to you for being dedicated to preserving a historic public building that has its history in educating our youth. So thank you for doing that. Okay, this is roll call.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Hecht?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor LeBlanc?
Yes.
Councilor Lundberg?
Yes.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes.
Councilor Nolan?
Yes.
And Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
The City Council motion to appropriate up to $25,000 for the to the Magnolia Historical Society for the purpose as specified passes on a vote in favor, 8 in favor, 0 opposed, 1 absent.
Congratulations and thank you.
Very much. Thank you.
Thank you. So the next one you're going to be hearing from is the Ocean Alliance. They are looking for funding to make their first floor bathrooms ADA accessible. They estimate the total project cost to be about $70,000. They've requested $30,000 from CPA, which was recommended fully. They are eligible as a historic preservation project. I'm going to hand it over to a representative.
Thank you. And Ian and Alicia, welcome.
Good evening. My name's Ian Kerr, 3 Ledge Road, Gloucester, Mass.
Good evening. Alicia Pensarosa, 38 Derby Street, Gloucester. So we are requesting $30,000 in funding to put 2 handicap accessible bathrooms in our brick buildings that we are currently renovating. And to date, since we've submitted the application, we've done more work to the buildings, including adding roof structure repair, a new staircase to the 2nd floor, the rough plumbing for the bathrooms, and anything else I'm missing? And we've also shored up the seawall for that building. So our goal is to be able to host more community events and have handicap accessible bathrooms in the short term for people to use, and our long-term goals are to finish that building and build Innovation Center Makerspace at the site.
Thank you. Any councilor questions at this time? Yes, Councilor Holmgren.
Could you elaborate on the makerspace? That sounds intriguing, just for the benefit of the audience. Thank you.
Sure. So we recently completed an EDA, Economic Development Administration, feasibility study through a technical assistance grant. And we have submitted that, and we're going to continue fundraising to build ocean-centric makerspace innovation center at the site. We'd replace 2 of the buildings that were taken down in 2011 and put those back. Our idea is to put them back on barges so that they are resilient to climate change and coastal flooding. And the idea would be that people can learn how to use manufacturing and prototyping machines, build new skills, and start new ocean innovations. So build the economy.
Can I make a comment?
Yes.
And actually, we use a lot of technology currently with our oceanographic research, and we currently have a maker space in our shipping container. And every other Wednesday, we host a free robotics club, which is actually open tomorrow night. If any of you want to come and build a drone, 6:30 to 8:30 will be open tomorrow. It's been in this shipping container, and we're ready to get it out of the shipping container into the buildings, and the goal is to do that next year. And we can only handle about 20 kids at a time right now in the shipping container. So next year, when we get it into buildings A and B with the new bathrooms, we'll be able to expand on that before we move into the larger project that Alicia has described.
Thank you, Councilor Hecht.
In the same vein as the request by Councilor Holmgren, would you describe just for the public what's happening with your dockage? I think people would be curious to know.
So we recently received a Chapter 91 license to put 196 feet of dock in front of the buildings. And so those will be put in by spring and, accessible. Right now we're taking out a loan to pay for the docks. So we will be charging, but the long-term idea is for community use and for events like Schooner Fest to be able to host historic schooners and research vessels there. And that will also be a benefit to the Innovation Makerspace. And along with our Chapter 91 license, we created a public viewing area now on the site with a bench so people can access the site and have a place to sit, and visitors are always welcome.
Any other questions? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Any communications?
There are none.
Other council questions? Okay, then we'll close this part of the hearing, and Councilor Memhard, over to you.
Yes, on a motion by Councilor Hecht, seconded by myself, Budget and Finance Committee voted 2 in favor, 0 opposed, 1, Melissa Cox recused, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $30,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Gloucester's Community Preservation Committee to Ocean Alliance for the purpose to preserve and rehabilitate the tar and Watson paint factory installation of handicapped access in order to restore an historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the historic preservation category and funded from the unrestricted reserves in account 4500. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund, Historic Preservation Projects Fund 4744, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments or questions? I would just like to say to both of you, thank you and for your persistence in trying to maintain that wonderfully iconic building down there and putting it to the use that you are. It's really an appropriate use, and we keep hoping that you can continue to succeed, so thank you for that. Okay, roll call vote.
Counselor Gilman.
Yes.
Counselor Heck.
Yes.
Counselor Holgram.
Yes.
Counselor Blank. Yes. Counselor Lundberg. Yes. Counselor Memhard.
Yes.
Counselor Nolan. Yes. And Counselor O'Hara.
Yes.
City Council motion to appropriate up to $30,000 to Ocean Alliance for the purpose as specified passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Hey, congratulations.
Thank you very much.
So our next project is the Stage 4 Park Advisory Committee came before the City Council to ask for funding to restore a Parrott rifle. The total project is estimated at $45,700. The amount requested for funding was $22,705, to which the CPC recommended the full request. They are also eligible as a historic preservation project. I'm going to turn it over to David.
Thank you.
Thank you, David Dow, 12 Essex Street, Chair of the Stage 4 Park Advisory Committee. Well, obviously, this money here will let us continue on with the restoration of the cannons. As you know, we have currently been doing over 2 of them. I have 2 of them that we're rebuilding now. We will then rebuild the other 2. The cannons are being stored in a safe place, and we're working on them pretty regularly. When we are through with these cannons, I'm just going to give you a little reminder here that the Parrott gun is the most spectacular cannon that we have, and the one that will be firing the salutes. And we get through with the restoration of this cannon, we're going to be looking at a cannon that looks like this compared to a cannon that right now, for many, many years, has been sitting on a piece of concrete. So this is just a short view of what the detail and what this cannon is actually going to look like. So the next 3 cannons are quite different. They're the Constitution type cannons, and when we get through with those, they're going to look like this, and they're going to obviously be very, very authentic. And we are doing all the work on these other 3 cannons. This cannon, once it's finished a little more, is going to be sent out for some very special work. But these other 3 are going to look like this.
Okay.
So once these are done, we have obviously got to have a nice place to put them, and we have received money in the past for landscape design and that sort of thing, and that has been moving along. So what I want to show you next is the Beta company has done some work. We have had site reviews, and they have done some sketch work. David Benjamin and I, who was here tonight and has been just a superb partner of mine for getting this work done. We have submitted to Beta our idea of what this fort is going to look like, so I'm going to pass this around, and we will begin the hearing process and all the due process to get this plan approved, and that's how this new fort is going to look. I'm telling you, it's going to be spectacular. So this is pretty exciting, this plan as well. I know that's not really on the agenda, but this is a big part of why we're finishing the cannons, what they're going to be done. One of the problems we have had with the cannons is the inside of them has been open to the weather, and a question that I've always asked is, what are we going to do about that? Well, these cannons historically have a fitting that goes in the end of the muzzle. We did the research and found out what those should look like. So I have made one of these, and I am the one actually making the carriages, but this has a very special name for it. But for me, I'm just going to call it a plug because it's just better to call it that. So there you have it. That's where we're headed. I have been in contact with Mike Hale. Mike Hale has gone along fine for what we're doing and how we're handling the cannons and storage and that sort of thing. So the next step will be do the 3rd and 4th. And we're really excited about this and hope that you'll continue to support us. So the only other thing that's unfinished is once this plan is accepted, is come back to you one more time for construction money for the fort itself.
Thank you very much.
Any questions?
Any councilor questions for David? Councilor LeBlanc?
I have a couple questions. So once these cannons are refurbished, where will they be? They're not going to be put back out, correct?
No, we're going to hold off putting them back anywhere. I think we're going to try to find some good locations around the city to put them until we're ready at the fort. We can just put them back in the container where they are now and just wait until the whole thing is done. But I would like to see them set around a different place to see so people can actually see what they are. You know, that's the thing we should do.
Will there be anything put in their place after they're removed? Because I know I've lived here my whole life. It'll always be the cannons to me. We're going up to Stage 4 Park to the cannons. Are there going to be any type of substitute put in those places to mark where they were, so people from out of town or the locals can go up and kind of check them out still?
I don't see us putting anything in place there. You know, there's nothing that says we can't put a restored cannon back down there as it is and then remove it again when they start the construction. You know, they should go somewhere so that the people can see them. Right, I agree.
Thank you.
Councilor Gilman?
Thank you, Dave. My question is, what is the goal? Like, what are we trying to do, for example, at the 400th anniversary? I mean, what are we trying to kind of signify with the?
I think we're just trying to show the city that this place that's been neglected for so many years and is certainly a historical spot has been restored for the benefit of everybody in the city of Gloucester, school children and all. This includes the walkway. It ties into the new welcoming center when that's done, so it takes that whole area of the fort, the park, and fixed it. So it's going to benefit everybody. This landscape plan is going to just open up that whole area, looking towards the boulevard as well as looking from the boulevard to the fort. You'll be able to see into the fort. It's just going to be the benefit of everybody to clean up this neglected area.
Anybody else? Thank you, David. Anybody else wishing to speak in favor? Any opposed? Oh, favor. Here comes Barry. You can't shoot the fireworks out of the cannons? No, Barry. We've been down that road before.
Barry Pett, 45 Middle Street. Yes, I have fired out of all 4 of those cannons, and I hope I didn't do any damage that David isn't going to be able to take care of things. I just wanted to add as commentary, as David and the committee has worked on all the historical parts of restoring these, that there are two of the 1908 version of the cannons there from that USS Constitution gave to the city of Gloucester when it was here in 1931. That's not the Parrott rifle, it's the next two down. But we have had over the years, I actually have had 4 of the commanders of Constitution and their crew and their families up to Stage Fort Park. They're very well aware of those. And for that matter, Rockport actually has one in front of their, in front of their Council on Aging from that same time. But they've done tremendous work on doing all the research to do this and make modifications. And I hope, the end result will be some wonderful new things especially for our youth to be able, and visitors to the community will be able to enjoy.
Thank you, Barry. Anyone else in favor? Any opposed? Any communications?
There are none.
Any other councilor questions? Councilor Memhard.
Thank you. On a motion by Councilor Hecht, seconded by myself, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $22,705 from the Community Preservation Act funds, as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee, to the Stage Fort Park Advisory Committee for the purpose to preserve and rehabilitate the Stage Fort Park Parrott Rifle Cannon Carriage in order to restore an historic resource. The appropriation will be allocated to the Historic Preservation category, funded from unrestricted reserves in Fund 4500. The project will be tracked by the Community Preservation Fund Historic Preservation Capital Projects Fund 5809, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments? Councilor Nolan.
I will be supporting this tonight. Stage 4 Park Advisory Committee's worked really hard over the years to try to get a lot of things accomplished. There's been a lot of roadblocks here and there. We have Dave and Dave here tonight. Both have put countless hours in research into this, and I'm really happy to see it coming through. And thank you both that are here tonight and the entire committee for all your hard work.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Nolan. Councilor Gilman.
Do need to echo Councilor Nolan's comments. You both have been tremendous leaders, and you've worked really hard. You've made some progress, and there have been some hurdles, but we totally appreciate your commitment to the city, and thank you very much to both you and Dave Benjamin.
We certainly appreciate your help and continue on to get it finished. That's the goal.
And I would like to also echo those compliments, David and David, for your hard work and dedication to this very unique place we have. Thank you for your dedication.
You're welcome.
Okay, roll call vote.
Councilor Gilman?
Yes.
Councilor Hecht?
Yes.
Councilor Holgram?
Yes.
Councilor Blank? Yes. Councilor Lumberg?
Yes.
Councilor Memhard?
Yes.
Councilor Nolan? Yes. And Councilor O'Hara?
Yes.
City Council motion to appropriate up to $22,705 to the Stage Fort Park Advisory Committee for the purpose as specified passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Jamie?
So the next project we're going to be discussing is the Young Legends Street Hockey rink conversion. So they're looking for funding to convert the basketball courts located at Stage Fort Park into a league or regulation size rink. So the total project cost is currently estimated to be $300,000. The request to CPA was $100,000. CPA recommended funding the full request. They are eligible under the open space and recreation category. So I'll hand this off to a rep.
Thank you and welcome. And name and address for the record, please.
My name is Carl Ellis, 5 Bray Street, Gloucester. I am the president and founder of Young Legends Street Hockey. First off, we want to say thank you for having us tonight. It's always a privilege to work on this project. The CPA committee we also thank because they've been by far great guidance for us. Mike Hill, Mark Cole in the DPW for giving us the support to do this, as well as Jim Destino in the mayor's office. So we thank them. So what we're looking to do, we're really excited about it. We came by, I think it was last June, we came in front of you guys to get some guidance on how we could go about starting this project. So where we are today is we have designed an actual rink that will be anywhere from 140 feet to 160 feet, and what it will do is it will serve multiple purposes. Couple of things that, for community benefits, we can use it for. Some of these ideas are pretty cool. Soccer could be played in there. Lacrosse, I know Sean had mentioned that to me. We can still use it as basketball. We would suggest bringing in some portable basketball hoops, and you could put it onto the rink. A couple of years ago, there was that boot camp strength training. I'm not sure if that's so. They could actually use that as part of their facility. Dodgeball was another one. The recent one that was brought to our attention, not only from Jamie Corliss, but our treasurer, I guess there's a big women's roller derby population going on right now, so the rink could be used potentially for that. If anybody in the public wanted to use it for a birthday party, you know, we're gonna try to put some picnic tables up between the schoolhouse and the rink, so you could have a birthday party, use it. And also what we call public stick practices and even public rollerblading. So we're hoping that this rink will be utilized by everybody in the community and even the surrounding communities. I feel like we do represent the past street hockey players in the city, the present, and also the future players. This is something that I think street hockey's kind of a niche popular sport, and we represent them. So when we design this rink, we're trying to get it that anybody can use it and it can withstand the abuse of pucks, balls, etc. Lastly, the rink for us would be a lifeline for Young Legends. We look to expand our program, which means we're looking to bring in adult programs, high school levels, and by adult programs, it can be someone had joked with us, I hope there's going to be an over 40 league. We could do that. But again, our biggest goal too is hoping that I'll drive up there someday on a Monday morning or a Tuesday afternoon and there's just a bunch of people playing on it. That would make this a dream come true for us. The world of street hockey is growing. Currently, street hockey is looking to be in the Olympics. So we hope that one day we'll have our players be shooting for that level. But again, the big thing to bring some revenue to our city would be tournaments. Currently, we have been in contact with Fitchburg Street Hockey, USA Ball Hockey. They have tournaments that they have to turn teams away because they don't have enough playing facility. And not to bash Fitchburg, or there's not much out there, but I think Gloucester's the perfect venue because we got the ocean, we've got whale watchers, we've got great food. Who wouldn't want to come and play in a street hockey tournament and explore the city? So there's another way to bring in some revenue there. So Young Legends is also looking to create a scholarship and a community outreach program where we'll hopefully get some applicants to give a scholarship away. And the community outreach program would be, again, to team up with like the Gloucester High School teams, O'Malley and K-Ban, to expand the game of hockey. Because, I'll finish with this, we believe that street hockey can be played by anybody because all you need is a stick, ball, and basically a makeshift net. So, thank you.
Thanks, Carl. Anyone, any questions for Carl right now? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Any communications?
There are none.
Okay, then we'll. So, name and address for the record, please.
Yep, Ben Chincola, formerly 12 Land's End Lane, and currently in Orlando, Florida. I'm the treasurer of Young Legends Street Hockey, and I actually came here today to be able to speak in front of you guys on behalf of Carl and the organization that we represent. One of the things that Carl mentioned was basically the ability to kind of just exceed expectations of just a street hockey rink. And I believe that our team, and the reason that I've stuck with Carl and the group for this long, is that our team has the ability to reach these capabilities. So just really want to say that this is a great opportunity for Stage Fort Park, for Gloucester, for the hockey community, and then basically any recreational community within our community itself. So just wanted to say that this is a really important kind of a dream that we've developed over time, and it's coming to reality. So it's a great opportunity for us. Thank you.
Thank you, Ben. Anybody else? Okay, Councillor Memhard.
Yes, so Young Legends Street Hockey. On a motion by Councillor Hecht, seconded by myself, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $100,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds, as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee, to the Young Legends Street Hockey to replace an existing basketball court at Stage Fort Park with a street hockey rink and attendant appurtenances. The appropriation will be allocated to the Open Space and Recreation category, funded from the Open Space and Recreation Reserves in Fund 4510. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund Open Space and Recreation Capital Accounts 5720, and I so move.
Moved and seconded. Any other? Councillor LeBlanc.
This is awesome. Let's get the kids off of these, and let's get the kids off of these, and let's put them not on the street, but playing street hockey. I think this is great. As you remember, I played street hockey. We went to little mom and pop stores to ask them to buy T-shirts for us, so we could go to the little freezers or the little local neighborhood schools, and we had our own group back then. So I think this is amazing to get kids outside. Like I said, not on the street, because you really can't do that anymore, but have a place for them to go, and even me and some of my buddies to go up there and shoot around. It's going to be amazing. So I'm totally looking forward to this. Thank you for doing this.
Thank you.
Councillor Nolan.
This is actually really exciting. I remember when this first came up about a year and a half, getting together, meeting with yourself and your committee and Jim and Mike Hale, and a lot of work has gone into this. It's not just a thrown idea out there. Let's take a basketball court that's not used that often and try something. We've looked into different areas of playing basketball, taking into consideration courts around the city, different projects, and the actual need for this. And it is a growing sport, and there are a lot of them around that are becoming more popular. And I beg to differ, this may be the nicest one ever with the location of the ocean.
I agree.
And I think that this is going to be a really good improvement to Stage 4 Park, and I know that the advisory committee is also supporting this as well.
Thank you.
Councillor Gilman.
Well, I had the pleasure of attending the site visit with Councillor Cox. It was really cold up there, but
It was. It was.
But I loved hearing about the plans and how it was all going to feel and all your thought behind it. So thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay. Roll call vote.
Councillor Gilman.
Yes.
Councillor Heck.
Yes.
Councillor Holgram.
Yes.
Councillor LeBlanc. Yes. Councillor Lumberg. Yes. Councillor Memhard.
Yes.
Councillor Nolan. Yes. And Councillor O'Hara.
Yes.
City Council motion to appropriate up to $100,000 to the Youth Legends Street Hockey Rink passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you, guys.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
This is going real good. So the next project is the Cape Ann YMCA Camp Spindrift Improvements Project. So they're going to be doing some renovations to some various outdoor and athletic areas located at Camp Spindrift. The total project estimated cost is about $120,000. The amount requested from CPA was $54,885. The recommended amount was $42,000. They are eligible as an open space and recreation project.
Thank you. Welcome, Tim. Name and address for the record.
Tim Flaherty, 71 Middle Street, Gloucester. Mr. President and Council, thank you for having us today. Greatly appreciate having us come before you. This is the first time that the Y has ever asked for CPA funds for Camp Spindrift or for anything else we have done. We've had in our possession this camp about 42 acres since 1963. We serve about 600 kids, Gloucester kids, summer. We also have rentals, and we also have people throughout the summer and throughout the fall and spring that utilize our camp throughout Gloucester. This project we thought would be a great use of city funds, considering we look at ourselves as the recreation department for the city of Gloucester, and the idea of improving the whole campus that has been done in many years, improving the pavilion so when kids have inclement weather, the basketball court that hasn't been renovated since it was built, and also the restoration of the field is an important piece, and then also part of the master plan that the CPA committee recommended. And I also want to thank Catherine Slichty and Barbara Silverman, the chairmen of the committee. They've worked 7 long months doing this project, and it's a lot of hard work. As you're sure I understand that, and I greatly appreciate their hard work and the whole committee for doing that. Questions?
Any questions for Tim? Okay. Councilor Gilman.
So I was intrigued hearing about the amount of buses that bring children to the camp. Can you elaborate on that?
The buses that go to the camp?
Yes.
Yep. We use the City of Gloucester buses that go through there. This past year, we tried to consolidate the buses and make it a little more efficient. We had about 5 bus routes going there, and they drop off the kids in the morning, and then they drop them off to bring them back home. Most of the parents actually drop their kids off by car, but we do have a good amount of kids on the buses.
I don't call it a follow-up question now because it's the same as the second question. So do you find, Tim, that a lot of the parents actually use it as a form of childcare when they're working during the summer months?
Oh, absolutely. There's no question. A lot of the kids who are in our after-school program, 200 kids in our after-school program, a lot of those same kids are at summer camp. And one thing I wanted to make sure I mention this too is we give away probably about $200,000 just for that camp, never mind the YMCA in general. Half of those kids that come to that camp are City of Gloucester kids that receive some kind of financial assistance. We don't turn anybody away. You're welcome, Councilor.
Anybody else right now? Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Any communications?
Yes, you all received a Jack Meany, Director of Special Projects of the YMCA, with a little presentation. So that was all circulated to the council in support of this application.
Thank you. Okay, any other councilor comments? Councilor Memhard?
The Cape Ann YMCA Camp Spindrift, YMCA of the North Shore. On a motion by Councilor Heck, seconded by myself, Budget and Finance Committee voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $42,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee to the YMCA of the North Shore, Inc., Cape Ann YMCA, for the YMCA Camp Spindrift Improvements Project to enhance community recreational opportunities. The appropriation will be allocated to the Open Space and Recreation category, funded from the Open Space and Recreation Reserves in Fund 4510. The project will be tracked in the Community Preservation Fund Open Space and Recreation Projects Fund 4605, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other comments on this one? Councilor Hecht?
I'd just like to say I fully support this. This is a great use of these funds, and thanks for bringing it forward and getting it done.
Thank you, Councilor.
Councilor Gilman?
Yeah, I too will be supporting this, and some of the matters that were brought up that are important is the fact that the YMCA does serve as rather like our recreation department, which is really appreciated. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Thank you, Counselor.
Okay, we're going to do a roll call vote on this one.
Counselor Gilman,
Yes.
Counselor Hecht,
Yes.
Counselor Holgram,
Yes.
Counselor LeBlanc, yes. Counselor Lumberg, yes. Counselor Memhard,
Yes.
Counselor Nolan, yes. And Counselor O'Hara.
Yes.
The City Council motion to appropriate up to $42,000 to the YMCA of North Shore, Inc. for Camp Spindrift passes on a vote of 8 in favor, 0 opposed, and 1 absent.
Great, congratulations, thank you. And I think you got one more.
Yes, the
Okay.
final project. The last one is the Cape End YMCA's new Y facility. The funding that was recommended by the CPA will be going directly towards a splash park. So the total construction budget cost is estimated to be about $30 million. The amount requested from CPA was $200,000, and the full funding amount was recommended from CPC. And they are eligible as an open space and recreation project. Couple pictures. So this is a rendering of the splash park. Don't want to flip through them too fast. And this is one of the new facility.
Okay, welcome back, Tim.
Thank you, Council. There's a few things I want to talk about. This is obviously one of the biggest projects Gloucester's taken on in many years. It's a $30 million project. It's going to bring about $700,000 in tax revenue to this city. This $200,000 is going to specifically to the splash park because that's how the parameters work. We look at it as a $200,000 investment to the whole project because every city kid is going to be able to use this park. They're going to use the indoor pool. They're going to use a gym. They're going to utilize this whole wide facility. And as I talked before about Spindrift, giving about $150,000, $200,000, we give about $500,000 right now in financial assistance scholarships to every kid in Gloucester. That's probably going to double because we're going to look to double our membership as well. So we're going to be giving out more scholarships for these kids, not only using the splash park, but utilizing the whole facility. So we're really proud of that fact. Again, we look at ourselves as a recreation department for the city of Gloucester, and the things that we can't do now in an inadequate facility that we can do now in the future, and this next December when we open up, will be a tremendous asset to the city of Gloucester, and I really believe it's a great use of taxpayer money because, again, being the recreation department, being all the people that, not only the kids, but the adults, the families that utilize this. And again, I look at this project and the Y and the board of directors, this project is a transformational project for Gloucester. It's going to change Gloucester. When they come up to Gloucester right now, they don't even know what the Y is. You're going to get off Look 128, and it's going to spell healthy community. And that's what Gloucester has always strived for, and we're so proud to be a part of that and spearheaded this effort to make Fuller happen. You know, if we didn't spear this project forward, we're kind of concerned, you know, would Fuller still be standing right now? So we're really excited that we're being partners with you, with our after-school program, with our Mobile Y. This will only be a continued process in working with the city of Gloucester, again, with the splash park and this $200,000 assistance with the tax money. The one thing I would ask respectfully, I know the Finance Committee recommended $100,000. I would respectfully ask if one of the council would amend that motion for the recommendation that the CPA committee gave you of $200,000. If that's possible, we'd greatly appreciate that.
Okay. Any councilor questions? Councilor O'Hara.
Just like to disclose I'm a member of the Y, have no financial interest, and can vote on this.
Councilor Hecht.
I'd just like to note that I'm a member of the Y, but I have no financial interest, and I'm allowed to vote.
When we open up this Y, we'll have all of you be the members of the Y.
I was going to say, here's an opportunity for you. Okay. Any councilor questions for Mr. Flaherty? I have one, and it can be either you or Catherine Schlichty. So As you know, we are constrained in terms of dispersing community preservation monies to ones that are specified in the ordinance and in the state law. We cannot just make a donation to a capital campaign, which the Y has been in the midst of for the last few years. And I noticed from your original application, it seemed that that's what you were asking for, a contribution to the capital campaign. So could you please enlighten the council as to how this is not that, but it is something that fits within the bounds of the Community Preservation Act?
Yes, thank you. Yes, we asked the Y to amend their application to specifically have these funds dedicated to a certain portion of this project. So recreational funds can be used for anything that promotes recreational activity or supports recreational activity on the site. So it could have gone into the basketball court, it could have gone into the pool. We chose to have the splash park for a couple of reasons. One, it was the end of the project, so we know the project has been fully funded and completed. We can easily identify those funds to say these are used for splash park items. That was our initial concern too, that it looked like just a contribution to a capital campaign, but where this is specifically being used for an identifiable purpose that supports recreational activities, plus it's for younger kids typically are going to use a splash park, which we don't have a lot of recreational space for those. So those are the reasons why we felt it met the qualifications for the community preservation funding and would be easily identifiable for Jamie as she processes invoices.
Thank you. Anybody? Yes, Councilor Gilman?
So I was interested to know if either Councilor Hecht or Councilor Memard went on the site visit to Ipswich, and if so, could you tell us about what you saw?
It was a snowstorm that day, and I did not go to Ipswich.
So before we ask each other questions, I want to get through the public hearing part. So.
Okay.
So anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Hello, Dave. Identify for the name and address, please.
My name is David McKechnie. I'm from 12 Wolf Hill Road in Gloucester. And my wife and I are the co-chairs of the capital campaign for the new $32 million YMCA, including a new $750,000 plus splash park, similar to the one that's installed at the Ipswich Family YMCA. I did a little research on neighboring communities and found out that we just got approved a beautiful new park for playing street hockey, and the recent additions to the Community Preservation Act recreation budgets around the Commonwealth have seen dog parks, pickleball courts in Randolph, multi-purpose sports complexes in Boxford, and 2,500 such of these recreational projects have actually been funded in Massachusetts since 2000. First of all, I wanted to thank all of you for your consideration for a grant for the Camp Spindrift new pavilions and improved ball field and basketball courts, and the $100,000 appropriation coming out of Budget and Finance towards the new Cape Ann YMCA splash park. I would like to advocate strongly for reinstating the original $200,000 that was recommended by your CPA committee before being reduced by your City Council Budget and Finance Committee. I know why I'm so passionate about the YMCA because I was president of the Cape Ann Y back in 1992, and we almost went out of business and struggled to make payroll. And I remember traveling to Beverly somewhat advocating and begging the board members of the Beverly Y to merge with our Cape Ann Y with a promise to deliver a financially healthy Cape Ann Y one day in the future. To this day, a lot of the money that's been given away and used by folks with scholarships and so forth is money that just they're used the facility free of charge. But we actually have run a $250,000 deficit for the last 20 years in a row. And that falls on the backs of the YMCA members of Beverly, Marblehead, Swampscott, Ipswich, where they run a surplus. It has been a long, tough road, and I still show up at each YMCA corporate board meeting advocating for our Y, even in the face of these deficits. So here we are. We're digging, clawing, and advocating for support of this new Y since 2011. The YMCA construction had a starting budget of $15 million, but because of delays, increased cost of construction, and an incredibly dirty site, the project costs have grown to $32 million, a big number. We have been determined not to value engineer this project, including eliminating the $750,000 splash park, which, by the way, is the most popular attraction at the Ipswich YMCA. I can see a parent or a grandparent with a toddler at Good Harbor Beach worried about high surf and an undertow. The splash park will be a great, safe place for those kids and grandkids where those conditions don't exist. The Y is owned by its community. It serves all, rich, poor, old, young, and every ethnicity. No one has ever turned away from the Y for an inability to pay. We have raised $20.5 million to date for a new YMCA, on our way to $23 million, we hope. 40% of those proceeds have come from the town of Rockport. If it wasn't for one large donor from Rockport, the YMCA of Gloucester may not have happened, the new Y. The city of Beverly grants $75,000 annually of its Parks and Recreation budget to the Beverly YMCA. They allocate another $400,000 for their own Parks and Recreation budget. As Tim mentioned earlier, the Cape Ann Y is the Parks and Recreation Department of the City of Gloucester. Thank goodness for Mayor Safathia, who was helped financially by our YMCA when she was a young single mother. She's been a strong advocate for our Y. The vocal opposing minority always seems to win out in this community. Perhaps the 2 in 5 families on financial assistance at our YMCA currently need to speak up a little bit more. I'm advocating for them tonight. We don't want to borrow too much money. You can feel the gap between the $32 million and the $23 million. Yes, there's some other funding, but we're still looking at carrying several $million of debt on this property when everything is said and done. We don't want to borrow and cut out valuable Y programs in the future that will benefit this community, and we want its citizens to enjoy a state-of-the-art splash park. Please do the right thing tonight and approve the original $200,000 of funding for this new splash park and our overall investment in this vital community asset. Remember, the Cape Ann YMCA is delivering much economic development and tax revenue through its partners, and there's jobs that are going to come here to this valuable, wonderful city. Thank you.
Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Yes. Name and address for the record, please.
Hello, my name's Karen Abbott. I live at 7 Ledge Lane. I'm a huge supporter of the Y. I can't imagine anyone in the city of Gloucester doesn't know someone whose lives has been really strongly impacted by the benefit of the Y, to those really in need and to all of us as a place of community. So I've been involved in the Y, following this Y, this amazing, huge project, and I just think that this is something that should definitely be supported. I also don't understand why the city, I'm not very familiar with, but why the city would have a CPA committee that works very hard to come up with this recommendation just to have the recommendation overturned by the finance committee. So I'd like to understand that. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else wish to speak in favor? Name and address for the record, please.
Good evening, Gloucester City Council members, and to my neighbors here on Cape Ann. My name is Annette Spanks, and I live here at 4 St. Peter's Lane in Gloucester almost my entire life. I have come to understand that the City Council is going to underfund the recommended CPA committee approved grant to the KPN YMCA's recreational splash park. What I don't understand is why. Why would the City Council choose to ignore the recommendations of the CPA committee for the YMCA's recreational splash park? As has been mentioned earlier this evening by Dave, the Cape Ann community has been awarded a once-in-a-lifetime, for many, a $32 million YMCA project for all of us in our community to enjoy. Our community has come out and out big to raise the funds. Over $20 million to date have been raised towards this $32 million project. People are supporting the Y here and off of Cape Ann, and they want this new facility here in Gloucester. We all know the facility that we currently have in the state that it's in, and not to mention the lack of parking for most of our peoples. In order to recommend the $200,000 for the recreational splash park, the CPA committee was still able to fund all the other grants requested, as we've heard this evening. No proposal was denied to help fund this, the YMCA's recreational splash park. My understanding is if unfunded at the $200,000 level, the money is going to simply go back to the CPA account and will be unsuitable for anywhere else. The City of Gloucester has had a great partnership with the Cape Ann YMCA for over 7 years, since the dissolution of the city's own recreation department. The YMCA has acted as the city's de facto recreation and teen department, aiding the city in meeting its youth and recreational goals. I personally, as a resident and taxpayer, want to thank the volunteers of the CPA committee for all of their time, review, and research in order to make these recommendations that we've heard this evening to the City Council. And I urge the City Council this evening to approve obviously all of the CPA committee recommendations and support in full this recreational splash park for the YMCA. In my opinion, as a resident here who as a young girl attended Camp Spindrift, has attended the YMCA here as well as outside of here. My daughter was on the synchronized swim team for many years based out of Beverly, and just to be able to have those activities back here in Gloucester. I just hope that the City Council will reinstate the $200,000 requested. It is the right thing to do. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wishing to speak in favor? Name and address for the record, please.
Nick Taramina, 30 Bray Street in West Gloucester. I'm looking for your support for the full funding of the CPA funds as requested. Councilor Gilman, I had first-hand knowledge or visitations to the Ipswich Y to actually see that splash park in the summertime. Ipswich being a seaside community with Cranes Beach and many areas for kids to go to the beach. On the hottest day of the summer, going to the Ipswich Y and helping facilities with some projects, have seen firsthand the amount of kids that enjoy their time at that splash park. It's a valuable asset. I think that having this here in Gloucester can only benefit and make us that much stronger. So with that, I'm looking for your support for full funding. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Name and address for the record, please.
Hi, Andrew Fortini from 35 Middle Street here in Gloucester. I would urge that you guys do please reconsider and award the full $200,000 amount. I think that this project is going to be transformative for our community. Although I've only lived here in Gloucester for 2 years, it's been part of my life all growing up for the past 30. My father has worked here for 15 plus years. We've been visiting every year ever since, and I finally got the opportunity afforded to me by the Y in order to actually move in, and I think that this would be an amazing way to continue not just the transformation of my life, but everybody else who lives here in Gloucester with me. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else in favor? Anyone opposed? Any communications?
Yes, there are. Jack Meany, the slide presentation that he sent was for support of 2 projects. And I do have a communication in opposition for the funding from Kathleen Clancy of 78 Poplar Road. And you all received this communication.
Thank you. Any other councilor questions? Okay, Councilor Memhard.
So we have a recommendation by the Budget and Finance Committee for the Cape Ann YMCA North Shore New Y Splash Park. On a motion by Councilor Heck, seconded by Councilor Memhard, Budget and Finance voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council appropriate up to $100,000 from the Community Preservation Act funds as recommended by the Community Preservation Committee to the YMCA of the North Shore, Inc., Cape Ann YMCA, for the purpose of the new Cape Ann Community YMCA Splash Park project to enhance the community recreational opportunities. The appropriation will be allocated to the open space and recreation category and funded by the open space and recreation reserves in account 4510. The project will be tracked by the Community Preservation Fund Open Space and Recreation Projects Fund 4606, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Okay, well, Councilor Hecht? Well, I was going to let Councilor Gilman ask her. She started out asking some questions, and I asked her to wait, and now the time is now here. So, Councilor Gilman, or you want to go first? Go ahead.
I'd be happy to. I'm going to propose an amendment to the $200,000 original amount proposed by the CPC.
So you want to amend the motion?
I want to amend the motion.
To change the 100 to 200.
That is correct.
That motion is moved and seconded.
May I expound?
Oh, here comes Kenny. Guess you can't do it. Sorry. Hello, Ken.
Hi. Good evening, councilors. The issue, the concern is you only have 243,000 of open space reserve. If you vote 200,000 on this motion, you're going to go over. So we'll have to amend the motion to say 100,000 from unrestricted reserves and 100,000 from open space reserves. That'll have to be included in the motion.
So moved.
Second. Moved and seconded.
May I
So
expound
discussion on that.
Oh, discussion.
Go ahead.
Originally, when this came before us, there was new information tonight for me. Originally, when this came before us, we're mostly aware, I assume the council is mostly aware that each year we get around $750,000 to $800,000 annually is really what the CPC is funded with. And to me, with the $43,000 that was approved, for the Camp Spindrift, and then the $200,000 request, that came out to be about combined almost a third of our total annual allocation. And I just thought it was too much. And in fact, the $200,000 request on the $800,000, just that one request was 25% of our total budget of annual giving. But I thought that was just too much, and Councilor Cox made the motion to make this $100,000. What's come new to me tonight is that even if we fully fund everything, including the $200,000 to the Y for the splash park, we're still going to have $930,000 in the fund. Plus, we'll be reloaded with another $750,000 to $800,000 on the next go-round, I'm assuming for the next fiscal year, which begins approximately July 1, and through the end of the year, we'll receive those funds. So we don't really have $800,000 annually, and it's my fault that I didn't really realize the balance that we had. But we really have about $1.7 million available to us. So when I look at the percentage of the $200,000 divided by the 1.7 million, it's about 12%, which I think is in balance with the appropriateness of the funding. So I've made the motion, it's been seconded, and I appreciate it, and I'm going to support tonight the $200,000 funding for that reason. Thank you.
So on the motion to amend to 200,000, Councillor LeBlanc?
Yes, I'm going to support the motion also, the amendment. I, too, had questions about fully funding this. I reached out to Jack last week. We had a nice conversation over the phone. We talked about the other splash park and what it does for their town. We discussed, as Tim stated this evening, all the things that the YMCA does for the children, especially the inner city children of Gloucester. I think this is going to be a good asset for up at the Y campus. Another reason I look at things is, you go up to Linfield Marketplace and they have all these outside activities. They have this skate park, an ice skating rink, and all these other things for you to go up and be part of things up there. So I just picture our little slice that we have up there as a smaller version of Linfield Marketplace, and it's pretty cool to think that we have that in our little part of at the end of the world that we all call it. So I'm going to vote in support of the amendment tonight. So thank you, Jack, for giving me a little bit of insight on things with my questions last week, and thank you, Tim, for coming up here and shedding some light on what the Y does for everybody in the town. So thank you, guys.
Councillor Holmgren?
I want to thank everybody for coming out here and speaking so eloquently for the Y. And I myself have been a historically strong supporter of the YMCA counselors, and in fact encouraged the City Council several years ago to recommend opening up an RFP for the Fuller site in the first place. I even wrote a letter to the editor about it. Kicked off kind of a firestorm, as I remember, but it got done. And I have to say, based on the concerns raised to me regarding this appropriation, I feel that I don't have any choice but to vote against it tonight.
So right now we're doing the motion to amend, which you don't have to. So we're just talking about whether we're going to amend the main motion. The motion on the table is to amend the main motion to go from 100 to 200. So anybody else want to comment on that? Councillor Gilman?
Yeah, I was starting to move towards considering this at 100, and for 200, I'm just not able to do that for a couple of reasons. First, people in my ward were very concerned with the fact that this was a 2-month activity for a small group of people in the community. I know that you all referenced that in the minutes of BNF, which I thought you did a really good job on. I've got people in the community saying that how can we come back and ask them for debt exclusion override for a new school, which at a combined school, which would be about $1,250 a month for a person making with a house of $400,000, and they're saying that this is definitely a huge concern for them in terms of paying. And what they've talked to me about is, we have to be extra careful right now with how we spend taxpayers' money. And I was starting to warm up to 100 after originally I wasn't sure I was willing to do that, but I just can't go for the 200. It's just too much for a splash pool, and it's not that I don't love the Y. And if something else came back at a later date for some other type of something for the Y, I would be the first to support it, something year-round with community feeling, an extension of Spindrift, whatever. It's not that I have a problem with supporting extra money for the Y. I I can't get to the point where supporting $200,000 for a 2.5-month activity. So, I'm sorry, I'm not going to be supporting the amendment to the motion.
Anyone, okay, Councilor Nolan, on the amendment?
On the amendment, I'm going to be supporting that tonight. There was a lot of thinking the last few weeks. Some of the knee-jerk reaction to when it first came out, people, it's Community Preservation Act. Between more information coming out and understanding the resources for recreation and how it's available, the amount of time that the Y puts back into the community. I think that with the amount of funding and the applicants that we had this year, with the money that was available, in the beginning I was a little hesitant, but I'm confident that the $200,000 is the right move, and that's what I'll be supporting tonight.
Anyone else on the proposed amendment? So on the motion to amend, the main motion to change it from 100 to 200,000, voice vote. We'll do a roll call on changing the 100,000 to 200,000.
Counselor Gilman,
No.
Counselor Hecht,
Yes.
Counselor Holgram,
No.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Counselor Lundberg,
Yes?
Counselor Memhard,
Yes.
Counselor Nolan,
Yes.
and Counselor O'Hara.
Yes.
Okay, the amendment to the main motion passes on a vote of 6 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 absent.
Okay, so the main motion is now amended to provide for $200,000. So on the main motion, we can have a discussion on that. Anybody else wants to comment on the Councilor Memhard?
Just, we've had a good discussion here, and again, I also appreciate the advocacy on behalf of the Y and the role that the Y plays within the community. Our concerns at Budget and Finance was the proportionate amount within our overall annual budget and trying to maintain the right reserves. We want more towards affordable housing in the long term. The City Hall is chewing up a lot of historic preservation funds on a regular basis. Our concern was largely about the seasonality of this facility, and the site visit that we did have organized, I was not able to attend. I don't know if Melissa made it there through the snow. It was a tough haul to Ipswich during that particular Tuesday morning or Wednesday morning snowstorm, and that just fit into the concern about what the seasonality of this facility would be. I believe that the Ipswich Splash Park is associated with a larger pool complex, and that was not part of this project as it's envisioned at this time. But at the same point, it really is an enhanced outdoor experience, and I can appreciate some of the comments that were just made about the safety of the undertow at Good Harbor Beach and grandparents being able to enjoy a facility like this, knowing that it's safe, and that we're not paying lifeguards for it, that there is other supervision on site. So just trying to give you some background on the thought process that we went through, but we did say at Budget and Finance that we thought that the public hearing process tonight would be an important contribution to our ultimate vote. We made a recommendation based on feedback that we had had up until that time, and we're here to make the final vote.
Anyone else? So I'm going to ask the question one more time, Catherine, if you, just to you, because this is not probably going to be the last time we have the question of whether a not-for-profit organization is coming to the city for a contribution to a capital campaign. And I know that there's rationale now behind making this particular to a splash park as opposed to the whole project as a whole. You know, none of us have anything but the highest regard for the YMCA and the work that it does on behalf of the city. And I am sure that the city would be glad to consider giving the YMCA funds just as Beverly does, but that would be requiring a vote in another form, not the Community Preservation Act. So if this is a project that falls within the confines of the Preservation Act, then that's certainly something that we should know that, because there are other not-for-profits who have capital needs and who might want to come to the city for those funds. But on this particular project, we're saying that this money is for a splash park.
you could amend the, I mean, there could be an amendment. It could go, as I said, it could go for the pool. It could go for the basketball court. I mean, it can go to any portion of that building. The entire building supports recreational activities on the site, and any money that is put into this project is going to support and go for recreational endeavors. So it can go into really any portion of the building. The committee specifically asked for the Y to amend their application to identify a specific area.
Right.
And we were saying towards the end of the project, but it really could go into any portion of the building. And honestly, if they had come during the acquisition period, you could put $200,000 to the acquisition of the land, because it's for acquisition, creation, or preservation. It could have gone into any of those types of categories, as long as the funds will ultimately support recreational activities on the land. So there is a little bit of latitude with how the committee funds the request towards this $30 million project. And it doesn't, and honestly, it can be a nonprofit. Even private landowners can apply for community preservation funds. There's no actually requirement that it be a nonprofit. Our committee has a policy of wanting it to be nonprofits, not private landowners, but the fact that it's a nonprofit organization doesn't change the status of the funding. Did I answer your question?
Yes, thank you. Yes, Councilor Gilman.
I have a question, because it's come up with two different people in the past 2 weeks. There was a decision at the Y not to create an Olympic-sized swimming pool for like meets and things like that. And I know some of the kids on the swim team at Gloucester High and Rockport, the combined team, are disappointed. Is that something that extra money could help finance rather than a splash pool? Or is that just not in the cards because we
can't do programming with
don't
it.
have this, we don't have the size of an Olympic size?
Oh, you're saying if more money could go to increase the size of the pool?
I'm just saying, I'm just looking at something that our community really values a lot for a wider breadth of people. And I think our decision was not to put a swimming pool where you can have competition. Is that correct? The type of pool that's there right now. It's just a question. I'm just trying to think out of the box, because I'd love to be able to join on this vote, and I'm still struggling with the seasonal thing. So,
Council, that's a good question. We actually, at one point, looked at a 6-lane pool, which we have now. We're actually going to be building an 8-lane pool that we had not done before. Beverly, the Y down there, has an Olympic-sized pool, and the demand of trying to sustain that over time was not, we could do. And the idea of trying to build square footage, we can only build a building so big, and that would count towards the square footage. So we thought it was prudent that we just kind of went with the 8-lane pool and fit the needs of the community. And just so you know, whether it's an 8-lane pool or a 6-lane pool, the city of Gloucester will still use that for their swim team, for their meets. It won't be Olympic size, but they can still, right now, they use...
that is acceptable?
Yeah, right now, they utilize our facility for that, for their swim meets.
Okay, because they're not clear on that. They don't think they're going to be able to practice. I'm getting off topic right now.
No, that's okay. And just so you know, not to toot our Y's horn a little bit, but we're the ones who actually started that high school program for the school. So it's kind of nice to see them kind of grow. They have like 25 swimmers now, but they will be able to utilize that new pool.
Thank you, Tim.
Well, that does go back to the, the seasonality of a splash pool as opposed to some other part of the facility. I think that's where some of the counselors and some of the public are having a little bit of a problem with that investment, if you will. An investment in something that's available a couple of months a year doesn't seem like a very robust investment, to tell you the truth.
But you could invest it in another part of the building.
Go ahead.
I will say, too, I realize that the Y tries to be open to everybody in the city, but it's still a membership organization. So to Councilor LeBlanc's point, you know, the Linfield Commons has public areas where children can play, and I've seen them do it with the giant chess sets, et cetera, but will non-members have to pay like $10 to get in? What if they can't do that? What exactly was the Y's plan for that?
Well, I'll let Ms. Flaherty speak to that issue, but we do fund the Cape Ann Museum, which is a membership organization, Beauport Museum, which is a
However,
membership
they let Gloucester
organization.
residents in for free.
Yeah, and I'll let Tim speak to how we'll address.
It is true, we are a member organization. That's how Y survive. That's how we survive and be able to contribute to the community and be able to financially help people, like I told you, can be able to give $500,000 to the city of Gloucester youth, kids, and families. But as any recreation department, for example, that's a member organization as well. For example, nothing is necessarily free. There are some programs that recreation departments do for free, but when they have camps, recreation departments, they have to pay for it as well. But even us being a member organization, we do a lot of things for free for the community. We have community days. In the summertime, we open up our facility for the whole community. We have the Mobile Y, which is a free program that we work collaborative with the city of Gloucester. So we do, historically give, free memberships out, people who can't afford it. There's nobody turned away. But we do, to be able to survive, we don't have a tax base. We have to survive. We have to be a member organization. Does that answer your, Council, does that answer your question?
I didn't speak for earlier, but I just want to speak to your concerns of the.
I'm sorry,
Can I not? I work
done
for the
with
YMCA.
Yeah, we're into the council discussion of the motion right now, so we're not having any more public commentary. Thank you.
Okay.
Thanks. Okay, so back to, we're on the main motion has been amended, and it has been amended up to 200,000 for a splash pool.
There you go.
Take a roll call vote.
Counselor Gilman,
No, I'm sorry.
Counselor Hecht,
Yes.
Counselor Holram,
No.
Counselor LeBlanc,
Yes.
Counselor Lombard,
Yes.
Counselor Memhard,
Yes.
Counselor Nolan,
Yes.
and Counselor O'Hara.
Yes.
Okay, so the main motion as amended, to appropriate up to $200,000 to the YMCA of North Shore, Inc. for the Cape Ann YMCA Splash Park project passes on a vote of 6 in favor, 2 opposed, and 1 absent.
Thank you, and congratulations. Anything else, Jamie? Jamie, before everybody leaves, if everybody could just hold on a second, I just want to thank Jamie Corliss and Catherine Schlichty and the entire CPA committee. I was saying that I was kind of happy that this would be something on the agenda for my last meeting on the city council, because I think CPA is one of the coolest things that we do as a community, and we are lucky to have those funds, and we're lucky to have such worthy applicants to come and enhance our city. So thank you very much, all of the applicants. Okay, next order of business, Madam Clerk.
Next order of business is public hearing 2019-065 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Appendix C, Personnel Ordinance, Appendix A, Classification Plan.
So I'll open the public hearing. Is there anybody? Oh, Donna, thank you for staying all this while. Welcome, Donna. Thanks for staying. Just for the record, your
Thank you,
name.
Counselor. I'd like to speak in favor of amending the personnel ordinance on job classification for positions in the AFSCME-B collective bargaining agreement. The council wisely voted earlier in November to fund the newly negotiated AFSCME-B collective bargaining agreement. I'm grateful for that vote. And now it's a matter of housekeeping to fix the personnel ordinance on job classification and compensation, and that is what's before us now. We are going from, the old ordinance had 58 impacted positions. We're simplifying and strengthening the ordinance by going down to 24 positions in our newly formed job groups and classifications. In the new AFSCME-B organization, we will have 4 job groups. 1, administrative assistant, 1 through 4. Number 2, financial specialist, 1 through 4. Number 3, library, 1 through 4. And the 4th group is called licenses and specialists, because we have a group of 11 or 12 positions that are unique and singular and don't really fit in any other category, but they do require highly specialized skills or licensure. And so I think what we have is a much stronger and more logical job classification system that we have developed. This was a true joint labor management initiative. I'm very grateful for the commitment of the union staff that I was fortunate to be able to work with in creating this. What we had to do, because of the state of our current ordinance or lack of compliance with our current ordinance, is essentially get away from our typical civil service titles and come up with these new groups, because our civil service titles were no longer operable. We had the same civil service title appearing in different job grades, which is something that you can't do in human resources or job classification. And I had really strong support from the union as we worked through these very difficult issues, but they needed to be cleaned up and corrected, and I think we've been able to achieve that. So what you have before you, and what I was able to present to O&A, is the old job titles that I'm proposing that we delete from our personnel ordinance, and the new job titles that we shall substitute. I guess I would defer to Steve as the chair of O&A as to whether or not we need to go through in any more specificity as to what those titles are.
I don't think so. I
Thank
think
you, Steve.
it's just a housekeeping where
It's
we've
housekeeping.
deleted some jobs that don't exist anymore and stuff like that.
Correct.
Yeah, so.
Thank you. Any questions?
So we have, this has been a couple of steps in this whole process of reforming the AFSCME job classifications, and you've done a terrific job, Donna. This is the really down in the weeds kind of work, and but it makes a difference at the end of the day that people know what their clear
Thank
job
you.
titles are.
I appreciate that.
So there's no other questions. Anybody else speak in favor? Anyone to speak in opposition? Any communications?
There are none.
Good. Any councilor questions? And then I will close the public hearing and call for the committee report. Councilor LeBlanc.
Yes, sir. Ordinance and Administration voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Appendix C, Personal Ordinance, Appendix A, Classification Plan, and for the library and the city's administrative personnel to delete and add, move to waive reading of the 12 pages containing the classification plan, changes to the Personal Ordinance, Appendix C, and I so move.
Second.
All right, like I said earlier, this is just belts and suspenders. We just remove like asphalt spreader and like these other positions that were in the ordinance for years that we don't have anymore, so.
I'd like to object and request a full reading.
Sure.
Overruled.
In the first council meeting in January, when you're sitting at home, you can read through that on your own.
Thanks, Paul.
Okay, so this is just an ordinance. This is a simple majority. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you. Next order of business, Madam Clerk. Thank you, Donna.
Next order of business, public hearing 2019-066 to amend Gloucester Code of Ordinances, Chapter 22, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Section 22-271, parking prohibited from May 1st to September 15th, generally by deleting Salt Island Road, both sides from Witham Street to Barbary Way.
Oh, we'll open the public hearing. Anyone wishing to speak in favor? Anyone opposed? Any communications?
There are none.
Any council questions? Close the public hearing. Call for the committee report.
Ordinance and Administration voted 3 in favor, 0 opposed, to recommend that the City Council amend Gloucester Code of Ordinance, Chapter 22, Traffic and Motor Vehicles, Section 22-271, parking prohibited from May 1 to September 15, generally, by deleting Salt Island Road, both sides from Witham Street to Barbary Way, and I so move.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any other commentary? Councilor Memhard.
Following up on Donna's good lead here, this again is making our neighborhood better. In this case, it's Salt Island Road neighborhood on Briar Neck, but this was a constituent request to address basically housekeeping matters and make our own ordinance consistent between on-season and off-season parking prohibitions. And I thank the clerk's office for their help in addressing this in a timely and straightforward manner. Housekeeping is good.
So we'll take a vote. Majority vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Opposed? Thank you.
Okay, next
Madam Clerk.
item is the update of the Council on Aging Board by City Council Representative, Councilor Valerie Gilman.
Councilor Gilman.
I will be brief. There are 3 exciting things happening with the Council on Aging. First, we have expanded the offerings, and with a partnership with Open Door, we now serve awesome soup and salad Monday through Friday. So that's really cool. It's been very well received. The food is great, it's fresh, and it's healthy. So everyone's excited about that. The second exciting matter is the transportation bus that we have, and we're using that regularly with the housing authorities. We all were involved with those little focus groups that we had at the different housing on aging and the housing authority locations, and they're very they're excited about going to different venues to play sports, go for a walk, get some healthy food. So we're making some headway with that, and you'll see I posted a poster today just to remind people of what some of those areas are that they're going to go to. So I encourage you to share it. And then the final thing is that we have a breakfast with Santa this Sunday at, I believe it starts at 10. And I'm going to be dressed up as an elf, and you too? Oh my gosh, we'll have so much fun being elves together. Council Holcomb, now I'm really excited about, I was excited anyway, but anyway, so that's just something, if you are interested in breakfast, go on my website and sign up. But it's fun, and all the proceeds go to helping with the bus at the Council on Aging, which is another way to get people around. So those are the highlights, and we didn't meet this week because of the storm, but we will be meeting in January, and look forward to it. So thank you.
Thank you. Okay, last order of business.
Councilors' request to the mayor.
Councilor Heck, we'll start with you. Anything?
I just want to say that I am so happy to call each of you at this table friends going forward, and that's really important to me. And I genuinely mean that of every single person sitting here right now. And I'm going to miss certain aspects of this, you know, and others I may not, the 12-page readings, you know. But I hope to not go away. I want to stay involved in the city and work on certain initiatives, and when I do, I hope you realize that I try to take things very seriously and try to think about them, and when I do come in front of you at some future date, I'd just like to have, you know, some conversations and some consideration, because I really want to keep doing great stuff for Gloucester. And thank you, friends. I really appreciate the time with all you who are now my friends. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor Gilman?
So, two things. First, I will totally miss Council President Lundberg and Councilor Hecht. They've been great colleagues to me, to all of us, and I will miss them very much, but know that we will be bumping into each other at many community events, and that's exciting, because being colleagues really lasts for a long time, so it's not just being at the table. So we will miss you, and thank you for everything. And then I have a request. I have a request that through the mayor, I'd like to ask that the planning director considers some special counsel permit training, not just for the council, but for ZBA, for planning board, for inspection. And we have a lot of new boards. We're going to have a lot of new faces. And I did some checking with Greg Catamatore. We found some really good sessions that MMA offers. You can go to them for $35 a head, which is reasonable. But he believes that they would come here to do a couple special trainings for all of those boards. So I think with new faces, it would be great. So my request is simply to ask our planning director to do some research on which one of those modulars would be really good, and find out if there's a discounted price if we have a certain amount of people taking them on a Saturday or whatever from those different boards. But Greg was very interested, and it was easy to research it. So if you wanted to check, you could just go on MMA and you can see the magnitude of the different offerings that they have. So I think that would be really great, particularly with all the new boards. So just a request. Thank you.
Thank you. Councilor O'Hara?
Thank you. I just want to thank Councilor Lundberg and Councilor Heck for the service to the city, and hope that you're not going away. You're both business orientated, different types, railroad business, but we know that we have serious problems in the city, and you're both numbers people, and I hope that you'll be around to help. We can make this city a better place. I just want to follow up on the gentleman who spoke about the snow clearing on sidewalks. It's a extremely serious problem. I did a survey. I sent some pictures to, I think, Dana. I did a survey throughout the city a week ago Tuesday, and found Ward 4 was extremely well plowed. Ward 1 was nice. I have to say, I don't know what Councilor Nolan's done, but Ward 5 was horrible. But with all joking aside, the sidewalks are used by so many people today as a means of exercising, particularly around Stage Fort Park. And it wasn't in front of Little League Field, wasn't plowed up Western Ave towards Huffs Ave, where you go left, wasn't plowed. And there was a gentleman, we all know Joe Polizia. Joe's handicap bound, and he's a man who goes out every day in his wheelchair, snow or no snow, but he went out the other day, and every crosswalk he could not use because there was snow there. And it's sad. We're almost there. I know the mayor said she'd move things up, and she has, but people just aren't removing snow. It's too heavy. You know, as the gentleman who spoke tonight, to think that he had 5 surgeries to repair his eyes, and you saw his seriousness of being dedicated to removing that snow from the sidewalks, but it's heavy, and we have to look at the reality of getting that snow off so that everyone can walk and get around the city. So I just want to ask the administration, they're doing a great job, but maybe we can go a little bit further and do a super great job. And I want to thank everyone who's participated in city government this year, and hopefully in the next year will continue their participation. This is your city, and participating, coming to our meetings, both subcommittee and here at City Council, I'd certainly welcome that, and want to wish everyone happy holidays. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor. Councilor Holmgren, Elf.
Santa, I know him. Echoing what's been said, Council President Lundberg, Councilor Hecht, thank you both very, very much. The alchemy of this council will change after January 1st, but the tone of the council, I think, will carry forward. We've gotten a lot of excellent things accomplished, and you two have played a very, very crucial role in what we've done. So I really appreciate having had the chance to serve with you. I'll quickly say the Middle Street Walk is on Saturday. It starts at 10 o'clock in the morning, culminating in the lobster trap tree lighting at 4:30 p.m. So, right, is that right, Ken? 4:30? And also on Friday, December 13th, at the DES Hall at 133 Prospect Street in Gloucester, there is a Polar Express Pajama Party movie night. Tickets can be purchased at the door. It's $5 per child. Wear your PJs, bring a blanket and pillow. Bring your friends for a night of fun. Popcorn, juice, and water will be served. No age limit. Thank you.
Great. Councilor Memhard.
I'd also like to thank Councilors Hecht and Councilor Lundberg. Ken, if there's a light bulb out, we know where to find you. Okay, just and Paul, in particular, I'd like to thank you for your level-headed advocacy on our city council's behalf with the mayor's office. I know you've gone to bat on my behalf on a number of issues, and I appreciate that you're taking that on yourself. And I would like to wish everybody a happy new year. I'd like also to thank Councilor Gilman for hosting a very nice celebration of the outgoing councilors at her home up at Stillwater.
Thank you, Councilor Memhard. Councilor Nolan.
Well, I want to thank you, Prez. You've done a good job. And I'm sure we're always going to be working with you with the hospital and different things to come in the future. To the King of the Deuce, you're a good man. And I think that we're going to see a lot of you, and you got a lot of visions. And I think this is going to work out great. And thank you all.
Thank you, Councilor LeBlanc.
I have a request to the mayor. The National Grid has been doing the work down at the Rotary. They've kind of ripped up the Rotary itself, the grass. I know the Generous Gardeners do an amazing job down there to make it look